Why is the hijab, a piece of cloth, so feared, so debated, and so politicized? Why do entire governments pass laws to strip it away, while millions of Muslim women around the world wear it with pride? This isn't just about clothing, it's about power, faith, and freedom. From France to India, from talk shows to TikTok, Muslim women's clothing is constantly under the microscope. People ask, are they oppressed? Is it forced? Why do they cover at all? But behind all these questions lies one thing people rarely talk about: the voice of the Muslim woman herself. Islam doesn't hide the reason behind modesty. In Surah and Nur, Allah commands, "And tell the believing women to lower their gaze and guard their chastity, and not to reveal their adornments, except what normally appears, and to draw their veils over their chests." In Surah Al-Ahzab, Allah says, "O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters, and the women of the believers, to draw their cloaks over themselves. That is better, so they may be recognized and not harmed." It's not about erasing a woman or hiding her from society. It's about defining her worth through God consciousness, not through how much of her body is visible to others. In Islam, modesty is part of a larger value system that applies to both men and women, and it begins in the heart before it touches the clothing. Western media often paints the hijab as a symbol of oppression, but here's the irony. Muslim women who choose to cover are told they're brainwashed, yet those pressured to uncover are called liberated. What kind of freedom only exists if it matches your standard? The idea that Muslim women are voiceless victims has been used to justify wars, discrimination, and hijab bans. The U.S. invasion of Afghanistan was framed as rescuing Muslim women from the burqa, even as bombs fell on their homes. In France, teenage girls had been suspended from school for wearing long skirts deemed too Islamic. In India, Muslim students have been denied entry to classrooms for wearing hijab, even when it's their lifelong tradition. These aren't fringe incidents, they're systemic. Can they send a clear message? You're only welcome if you look like us. But here's what's rarely shown: the stories of Muslim women who choose hijab proudly, even in hostile environments. Women who are doctors, engineers, journalists, students who wear it not because they were forced to, but because it's part of their relationship with their creator, because it gives them dignity in a world that constantly reduces women to appearances. Ask any hijabi, and she'll tell you wearing it isn't always easy. She's stared at in stores, ignored in interviews, sometimes even harassed in the street. In some cases, she's told she can't work unless she takes it off, but she wears it anyway, cause for her, it's worship, it's identity, it's resistance, it's a quiet declaration. I answer to Allah, not to you. Some women say hijab gave them more confidence, not less. It forced people to hear their thoughts instead of judging their body. It reminded them that beauty in Islam is not measured by looks, but by character, kindness, and faith. This isn't to say that all is perfect, okay? In some parts of the world, women are indeed forced to wear hijab, and that goes against the teachings of Islam. The Qur'an says, "Let there be no compulsion in religion." True faith can't be forced, it must come from the heart. So, whether a woman is forced to wear it or forced to remove it, both are wrong. This is why we as Muslims are forbidden to proselytize. We as men are unable to interfere with your relationship with Allah. We can only help educate. But in today's global narrative, only one side of that story is ever told. Countries that force women to uncover are praised as modern. Countries where women choose to cover are labeled oppressive. But both extremes ignore the real point: the freedom to obey God without interference. This obsession with Muslim women's clothing didn't come out of nowhere. It reflects a deeper discomfort the modern world has with modesty, limits, and the idea that liberation doesn't mean exposure. The hijab rejects the idea that women must be sexually available or visually pleasing to be respected. And that terrifies a system that profits off women's insecurities. And let's be clear, modesty in Islam doesn't stop at the hijab. It includes how we speak, how we act, how we treat others. Men are also commanded to lower their gaze and dress modestly. But because Muslim women are more visible, they often carry the burden of everyone's assumptions. Throughout Islamic history, women who wore hijab weren't locked away or silenced, okay? They were scholars, warriors, and community leaders. Aisha narrated over 2,000 hadiths and taught major companions of the Prophet. Fatima al-Fihri built the oldest still operating university in the world. Nana Asmal, a West African Muslim woman, led educational reforms in the 1800s. These women wore hijab. They weren't weak. They weren't invisible. They were unstoppable. So, to every Muslim woman watching this, you are not oppressed for dressing with dignity. You are not backwards for following what your Creator commands. And you do not owe the world an explanation for your faith. But if you do speak, speak with confidence. Because the world is listening and the truth speaks louder than fashion trends. If you want more stories like this, subscribe to Islam Animations. We are just getting started.